I think that's what she did for a lot of people. She just challenged them to think in like a different way, which is really cool.
And like back then, I don't feel like a lot of people did challenge.
Exactly.
Especially a woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and like while she's doing all these things, like the media and public are really trying to just like shut her down because she did have more controversial opinions. And so like even when so right here it says she dared to equate American racism with fascism and argued that to ignore the evils of segregation would be capitulating to Aryanism, and hostility toward her reached an all-time high, and people wanted her to be silenced, but it's because she's challenging people and making them uncomfortable with their like everyday thoughts.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of it is because she wanted Americans to learn from their prior mistakes, including like World War One, and like I don't know. She just recognized that violence is never really the answer, and that there's better ways to like treat people and go about things. This is kind of cool because this kind of goes into like her women's rights stuff. She held weekly press conferences with women reporters who she hoped would get her message to the American people. So like these press conferences, only women, like no men are in the room. Kind of cool. Here's a fun quote: "The unemployed are not a strange race. They are like we would be if we had not been given a chance at life."
Yeah. That is. Because a majority of those people that were educated back then, they were placed in families and like there's environments where they could have an education, and like people that did not get that opportunity to do that.
This video says is that like not only did Eleanor Roosevelt have good connections with like people in the US, it was literally all over. She expanded so broad, which I think is really cool.
Like they traveled all over the country on train, and Eleanor was able to talk to this woman that was a sniper from Russia, and like she was able to connect, build a trust between them, like totally opposite like cultures where they lived, like pretty dope woman.
Exactly. So that's pretty much what she did while being the first lady and prior to that. Now this is the final section, is going to be talking about her life as a first lady. Following FDR's death, this was the first time that she had actually been truly independent. Because if you think about it, she was always going with what her mother-in-law and grandmother said, straight into like what the public was expecting of her. And so this was the first time that she was able to just be like, I've always done my own thing, but now I can like genuinely do my own thing. And with that, she played a huge role in the UDHR, which I don't remember what that stands for at this moment, but I'm sure it'll come up. And it remains the touchstone of the global human rights movement and a key component of an international system that provides for international scrutiny of the way in which a nation treats its citizens. So that kind of goes into the video that we just watched too, that like she reached out globally rather than just like what she could have done in the US. And even though she was no longer the first lady, she remained a voice, and a loud one at that, for communities who may be underrepresented. She really just like tried to, she pushed for a lot of things like equal pay for equal work, which there's still a pay gap. Pushed JFK to hire more women in office who were genuinely qualified. And in her final days, she continued to speak out on issues relating to racial justice, world peace, and women's rights. Well, I'm reading that one last. Okay. So some of the other things that she did was she helped to write the 1948 United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. She chaired the President's Commission on the Status of Women. She also worked on the Equal Pay Act that was passed in 1963. Civil rights work and efforts to push Washington to take swifter action in housing, desegregation, and protections for freedom riders and other activists. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, and even though she didn't win, she remained at the top of the national polls, ranking the most respected woman in America decades after her death. So even after she was gone, she was still like such a role model, and respected. It said here, these are some of just like the quotes that people have said about her. She set a standard that no other first lady has even tried to live up to. Betty Friedan said that, and she wrote the Women's Mystique. I don't know if you've heard of that. Basically, that was one of the new stepping stones for like women trying to kind of branch out of the traditional gender role that had been given to them. And I don't know, you should look into it. It's pretty cool. Interesting. Some in regards, because there's debate on people being like, oh, she was a feminist. Like, people don't really know how to label that. Oh wait. Okay, thank you. So like some where it says quoted as feminist, a liberal feminist of her times. She was but then there's also claims that she wasn't really a feminist, instinctive feminist. During that time, like there are waves of feminism, and I think during this time it's like the second or third. But there are things that like a lot of the typical feminists were fighting for that she didn't agree with, so that's why it was like not really known how to define her. But like where people are like, she's not a feminist, she was like a human rights activist, so it was like she was fighting for like people to live the way they want to.
I think she was just really feared. I think when it comes to a strong, powerful woman, a lot of people are scared of that because they don't know how to put a label on that. So like they automatically put like, you're a feminist because it is kind of a negative connotation, you know?
I agree.
Even though like she did support women, but like look at the rest of the things she did. She supported so many artists, even other like minorities. She supported like lower class people. Like it wasn't just women.
Yeah.
Like she didn't just focus on like, oh, I just want to help women out. Like she reached so many different like societies, organizations, like, and for them, like these reporters would be like, well, you're a feminist. It's because they're scared of her,
right?
You know.
Well, so. and most of her work, like a lot of it was for the advancement of women, whether it was in politics or peace, and like she was just trying to make life better for anyone who was underrepresented. Yeah. And like who wasn't getting like the attention or things that they deserved.
Fair treatment.
Yeah. One of her focuses was geared towards the underprivileged of all creeds, races, and nations. Yeah. Like she.
Like, oh, she's just a feminist. Like no.
No, she was so much more than that. I don't know. Yeah. So. Here's a fun quote. No matter how plain a woman may be, if truth and loyalty are stamped upon her face, all will be attracted to her. So that's pretty much all I have, I'm pretty sure. I'll finish with this long thing. But, so this is the debate of if she's a feminist. Historians often debate whether or not Eleanor Roosevelt should be called a feminist. Those who say she was not a feminist base their argument on Eleanor Roosevelt's opposition to the National Women's Party and the Equal Rights Amendment. They, like Lois Scharf, argue that because Eleanor Roosevelt did not view social problems through the unique lens of gender, discover and define the discriminatory features of society, examine the underlying causes for female inferiority, and concentrate on their alleviation, that the answer to this question is qualified no. Others like Alida Black and Blanche Cook disagree. They say her firm belief in women's equality and her 40-year campaign to advance women politically, economically, and socially is proof of Eleanor Roosevelt's commitment to gender equality. While they agree that Eleanor Roosevelt opposed the Equal Rights Amendment throughout the 20s, 30s, and 40s, they point to Eleanor Roosevelt dropping her opposition in the late 50s. To them, ER is a feminist because their definition of feminism is broader than supporting the Equal Rights Amendment and dedication to gender-based analysis. So, like the Equal Rights Amendment, at first that's when she was like, no. But as time went on, she eventually was like, actually, maybe I do support it. Yeah, gradually embraced the Equal Rights Amendment. But to wrap this all up, because obviously there's so much more information out there than like what I just talked about, or what we talked about. But she said that women must learn to play the game as men do. And I think that's fair. Life is a game of chess, and you just gotta play your cards right. And I think Eleanor Roosevelt did that. And I think she is a wonderful role model for women alike, and even just people alike, as you look at and be like, how should I treat people?
Yeah.
Treat people the way Eleanor did, because she clearly cared about them. Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Very good job, Sydney. You did really good. A lot of research.
Yeah.
Yeah, really good. I enjoyed learning about her. I thought I knew a little bit, but yeah.
Now you know so much more.
Man, I know so much more.
Good. That was the whole point of this.